Here is an example gradebook. So in this example, I only have one student, and that's test student. But in your gradebook, you'll have this whole column populated with rows and rows of your students. So let me show you how I got here. You open up your course, and then you click on grades. So the gradebook exists to help you view and enter grades for your students, and it lets students know how they're doing at any given point of time in the course. Now you can choose whether you want the grades to be points, percentage, complete or incomplete, GPA scale, or letter grade, depending on how you set up the assignment. And just note that only the graded assignments, discussions, and quizzes and surveys will be here. If you have an ungraded survey or a not graded assignment, they will not show up here. So the default view in Gradebook is to see all students here. The Gradebook has keyboard shortcuts. You can view those if you click on this keyboard. And what you can do is use these keyboard shortcuts to navigate easily. I don't use them, but I'm not in Gradebook as often as you are. So if you wanted to experiment with these keyboard shortcuts, they're right here for you. Another thing the Gradebook has is a filter. It's these options up here allow you to filter how the gradebook is displayed. So for example, if we go into view, we can arrange by assignment name alphabetically. We can filter by, arrange by due date, newest to oldest, or oldest to newest. So another way you can arrange it by is by points, lowest to highest, or by module, first to last, and also the reverse. So I'm going to keep it in due date, oldest to newest, and then I'm going to check out this filter. So you can filter by assignment groups, and those we set up in the assignments section. So that was video 1. There we go. So you can now choose to just see exams, or just see, the final, or just see the homeworks. You can also filter by modules, so which ones are in the Unit 1 module, and so on. I don't have that many modules in this course, but if you were using modules, you could absolutely filter by module. I'm going to go ahead and turn off those filters. And you can also view by statuses. So your gradebook will have a color coding for anything that's late, missing, resubmitted, dropped, or excused. And you can change that. You can customize that if you'd like. You can also switch from the gradebook view to individual view. I do this every once in a while to see what it looks like for certain students. So you'll notice nothing happened. Just go ahead and do it again until something happens. So this is what it looks like as individual view. So here you can select the student, and then you can see what that student will see. And then if you want to go back to the regular gradebook view, you can do that here. And if nothing happens, do it again. And if nothing happens, do it again. Persistence pays off in this. So I wanted to show you some of the actions as well, so you can export into a CSV file. It says Gradebook export started, and when it's done, it'll pop up here. You can open it up. Here's what it will look like. It's got all of your students, all of their grades, all their calculated grades. You can also search for students using the search bar up here. And you can also click on this gear to get your gradebook settings. So there's 3 tabs we're going to talk about. You can set a late policy, you can set a grade posting policy, and then there's one option in the advanced tab which you can allow for a final grade override. So for the late policy, you can always leave this blank. You do not have to set this up, but some people do like to set it up so that there's an automatic deduction for late works, or that if it is missing, they get a 0 until you were able to go in and adjust that manually. And then a grade posting policy applies to all the assignments and basically says, do you want them to automatically post as soon as they're entered, or do you want to hide them and that you as the instructor will have to release or post the grades when it's right for you? A lot of people do this, especially if their quiz is part multiple choice, auto graded, and part manually graded essay. So you don't want the first part to be graded and released while you haven't graded the second part, and you want all your students to see their grades at the same time. If that's your jam, you'll want to go into grade posting policy and change it to manual. And then the last one is allowing a final grade override. That gives you, as the instructor, a chance to override any grade. If someone's right on the cusp of a C+, you can override it by entering the percentage that they need to be at in order to get the next grade up, which is a B-. So I'm going to go ahead and update those settings. And then another thing you can do, under each of these columns, once you hover over them, you'll see the 3 dots. So let's say I hover over paper 1, click on the 3 dots. Here's where I can go straight into SpeedGrader. I can hide the grades, or if they already were hidden, I can post the grades. You can change it to points or percentages. You can message students who. This is a great feature of the gradebook, where you can, for a particular assignment or discussion or quiz, you can message anyone who hasn't submitted yet, give them a little gentle nudge, a reminder to submit their paper. Haven't been graded, you could message them saying, hey, I'm taking an extra day to grade. I'm so sorry about that. You should see it, on Tuesday. Anyone who scored less than, and you can hit what mark that is. Anyone who scored less than 70, you can message them and say, hey, notice you scored less than 70. That's okay. This was just test 1. Our grade policy is to drop the lowest one, or whatever message you want to send them. You can give them, here's some tutors that are available. Here's some extra reading that you can do, whatever. Or scored more than. Congratulations, you scored more than 80. You did very, very well. I wonder if you'd be interested in, pairing up with some of our students who need some help. Whatever the message is, I'm just making these up. So that was the message students who. I don't really mess with curve grade, so I'm not going to go into that. If you are interested, you can look at the Canvas LMS instructor guides. Set default grade, same thing. I don't really do that much. And then let's look at the grade posting policy. Okay, so you can, for this particular column, just this paper, you can have it post grades automatically or manually. It looks like right now it's set to manually. Once you have more students here, you can also go to the top of any particular column and you can sort by grades, low to high, high to low, or by status. You can sort by any papers that are missing or late. If we scroll all the way to the right, we'll see our totals column and our override column. But for the totals column, if you click here, you can choose to move that to the front. And what that will do is it'll put it right here, right next to their name. A lot of instructors find that very helpful. Well, you can enter grades here. So let's say that homework, let's do paper 3. You can enter their grade right here. And if it's excused, let's say that this particular student did an alternative to paper 3, or didn't have to do paper 3, or whatever case may be where you need to excuse students, all you need to do is type in EX and then enter. And what that will do is that will not calculate that grade towards the total, which is excellent, because if you leave it blank, it will revert to a 0, and that would lower their percentage to a 66% as opposed to 100%, which is a big deal. In this example, I had 2 100s for paper 1, paper 2. So that's why it's doing that. I touched on this briefly in the first video where we set up the gradebook, but if you had weighted grades, then the assignment groups will display over here as columns, and these are uneditable. You cannot enter grades here. The only way you can affect change here is if you enter it into the actual assignment. All right, so they're both called participation, but one is the actual no submission assignment, and the other is the calculated column. So if this person got an 88 for participation, it'll show up here. Now, remember when we set our grading policy to manual? Well, this isn't released. This eye icon means that this grade is hidden. So once I've gone through and given everyone their grades, I can click on the snowman and click on post grades. And then once I post it, it will be visible. And you can tell that there's an eye icon here at the total. And then once I hit post, it should disappear. Now this exclamation point just means that somewhere in this grade book there are hidden grades. And that's just because we haven't finished entering these grades here. Once we finish entering these grades here, that exclamation point will go away. But you do want to be mindful of which ones are hidden and which ones are posted so that the student will, know where they stand. Here's where I can override the grade by entering a percentage. And where it's getting this number from is actually in the settings. So just as a refresher of how to do that, we'll go back to the course, go back to settings, make sure we're in the course details tab, and going down to the grading scheme. So this is actually where it's pulling what these letter grades mean. And if these aren't correct, you'll need to manage your grading scheme, select another grading scheme, or build your own grading scheme so that these match. And the reason why that's important is obvious. When you're in grades and it's calculating their final grade, you want it to actually match the percentage. That's basically it for grades. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching.